Ready, Mr. Lyon? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Midwest City Council, June 9th, 2020 version. I'll call this meeting to order. I would ask that the invocation be done by Bon Sullivan, if he'd come down, and the Pledge of Allegiance be led by Councilwoman Christine Price Allen. Would you please stand?
Would you bow with me, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this this occasion, this meeting this evening. Father, we have difficult decisions before this council tonight, and I ask your discernment, your wisdom be with them, and you give them peace in their decisions. Father, we thank you for their willingness to serve. We thank you for the sacrifice that they make and their family sacrifices as well. Father, we live in a trying time in our land, Lord, and we need your grace, your mercy. We need your peace. We need your comfort. We need healing, and we ask for that blessing right now, Lord. Heal our land, Father. We ask that we all extend grace and mercy to our fellow man, and we try our best to understand each other more each day. Father, we live in a great nation, a great land, and we have men and women who are sacrificing tonight to guard its freedoms and guarantee them. We ask your blessing be upon them and your protection as well. Father, we thank you for Son Jesus and the sacrifice you are both willing to make on our behalf to redeem us. We ask these favors in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into community-related announcements, I would ask the indulgence of the council and the audience. As we pull out of the fog that was created by COVID, we need to send out some thank yous. First off, I want to thank the citizens of our community for understanding and going along with the restrictions that we had to put in place to protect everyone, and also the personal responsibility that was taken on by our citizens to keep themselves safe and well. We had very few cases in our area, and their indulgence and following the rules paid off. Second, I want to thank all the businesses that remained open and that could and continue to operate under less than optimal circumstances. Third, I want to thank the members of council who supported the measures we took and stood behind our city manager and staff as we took some very hard steps to keep our city safe. Along with that, I would want to thank the staff and employees of the city of Midwest City. They worked extremely hard to provide the services that you're accustomed to as citizens. Some employees had to switch jobs and work in other areas they were not familiar with, and they did so without question. To the staff and department heads who had to make very difficult decisions and work tirelessly to put together a budget that saved jobs, maintained core services, and kept the city financially intact. Midwest City is wide open now, and we must work to overcome our shortfalls, keeping our economy going and our community safe. It is comforting to see full parking lots once again. Along with that, we need to continue to work to build our community, and never before has this ever been more important is that you shop Midwest City. Second, as a civic leader, I would be remiss not to mention Mr. George Floyd. As a 31-year veteran of police officer, I was physically nauseated as I watched the issues that unfold on our TVs that one night on the TV news. There was no reason for that to happen. Also, for the other officers to stand by and allow that to happen made them complicit as well. And they have since been charged. Now it has come out that the suspect in that killing also had 17 fire complaints against him. That makes the police department complicit in his action as well. Now we must rely on the justice system to do their job. We must keep Mr. Floyd and his family in our prayers, and the city and citizens of Minneapolis. Along with that, we must pray for our city, state, and nation that God heals us through this. We also must pray for the hundreds of good police officers that, despite everything, continue to do their job honestly, faithfully, and fairly every day. We must, as a community, stand up against injustice where it stands and come together as a community to heal. I will tell you that the Midwest City Police Department has a very proactive set of initiatives, policies, and trainings in place to prevent such an act happening here. Also, the Midwest City Police Department has been very proactive in community outreach and program development to address the many issues that face us in modern day policing. They will continue to remain connected to the community and continue to protect our community in a professional manner. Lastly, I wanted to thank a young lady, a Carl Albert graduate, Tarinka Edwards. She put together the peaceful protests that you may have seen at 15th and their depot over the last few weekends. Friday, I got an opportunity to go by and talk to those citizens. She's a sweet girl, and all the people that were with her were just as kind and sweet as well. I stopped by to thank them for what they were doing, participating and exercising their constitutional rights, and thank them for keeping it peaceful. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in tenuous times, but we are also blessed in living in a community that's diverse, that looks out after each other and protects one another. And it's an honor and a pleasure to serve as mayor of this city. And I just want to thank all of the citizens for doing their part in keeping our city safe. Mr. Manager, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor.
You bet.
So community announcements, Wednesday, June 24th is the Skip 2 Trail and Underpass ribbon cutting. Snow cones and bike clubs will be present. All are invited. Do we have a time on that? 6 p.m.? At 6 p.m. Our new city website will launch tomorrow per Claudia Coos. Our communications director will be posting something on Facebook over the next few days to explain some things that work differently. The website replaces the My Midwest City app because it has a responsive design that works well on any device, laptop, tablet, and smartphone. Thanks to Claudia leading that and all the staff that has participated in that conversion. Cruising for Coffee is Saturday, June 20th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Santa Fe Steakhouse parking lot. Free coffee and Be lots of new cars, classics, and motorcycles at that event. If you haven't been to that, please get out and go to that event. You'll see some really cool cars. The Mommy Son Luau is Friday, June 26th from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Reno Swim and Slide. We have information available on our website, including a link to buy tickets online. They're $8 per person, and that includes a hot dog, drink, and chips. This is for boys and their mother or mother figures. Thursday is June 11th is the Neighborhood Association celebration at Joe B. Barnes Rotary Pavilion from 5:30 to 7:30, and bring your own drinks. Is that right, Mike? Okay. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Ms. Eads?
I have a couple of things. First off, if you haven't had the opportunity to attend a Sunday evening cruise night on Air Depot Boulevard, I encourage you to go out and see some of the cars that are cruising about and parked parallel to Air Depot between essentially Reno and 29th Street. It's a fun event. Also, because this came up today, if you are contacted by someone canvassing in your neighborhood, please do ask them if they have a city permit to canvass, be they a internet business, an alarm business, a lawn spraying business, whoever. If they're going door to door, please do ask them for a permit, and if they don't have a permit, please notify the authorities, because they don't need to be out canvassing without a permit.
Call 911 and an officer will come out.
So I just wanted to make that announcement. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any further community-related announcements? I do have one. Last year, the gentleman that watches over our Veterans Memorial up at Reno and Douglas, Hiawatha Bolden, started an initiative last year to recognize the birthdays of each of our armed services. The way we do that is they raise the flag of that armed service for a week in place of the Mission in Action POW flag. Last year we were able to get members from all 5 of the branches to participate, including the ROTC. I don't know if we'll be able to do the same thing this year, but we're going to try. The ceremonies will begin at 0900, or for you civilians out there, that's 9 o'clock in the morning. And the first one we'll be doing is the Army birthday, which is June 14th of 1775 is when it was founded. The second one we will do would be August 4th of the United States Coast Guard. The third one will be September 18th for the United States Air Force, October 13th for the United States Navy, and of course one that's near and dear to my heart, November 10th for the United States Marine Corps. So if you happen to be up and around and would like to go up there and honor each of our armed services and what they do, please make arrangements to attend. It's a very short ceremony, but it honors all of our armed services and the men and women that serve our country. And that's all I have. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get into our regular agenda items. We have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agendas so that the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all council or members of the audience which discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
I'd like to have item number 8 pulled from the consent agenda, and absent item number 8, which I'd like to have a very brief discussion on, I move to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number 8 and be removed and discussed. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Chief Claves, this will be a school resource officer. Would you come and address the council's Questions?
Let me read the item while he's coming up, Mayor.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Discussion and consideration of renewing the school resource officer mutual cooperation agreement with Independent School District Number 52 of Oklahoma County, Oklahoma, for the placement of a school resource officer at Midwest City High School and Carl Albert High School from August through May, for which the district agrees to pay $168,599.
I only have a comment, Chief, honestly, and so that may save you just a breath, so to speak. I just want to thank the city and the police department and the school district for agreeing to fund this initiative for us to have 2 school resource officers in place at each of the high schools in Midwest City. And we previously asked for the school district to buy in, if you will, and put some money up towards this project. They have done that, as is reflected in the agenda item. And I'm just thankful that we are able to continue forward with this program, particularly with our trying economic times. And so I just wanted to call recognition to that.
Thank you, Ms. Eads.
Before we vote on that too, I actually got 2 emails on that today, and I'm not sure if you've seen it. And there's another jurisdiction south of us that there's a push to do away with the school resource officers. So I actually got 2 emails today telling me that if I knew it was good for me, I wouldn't vote against it. So there's constituents that are saying we need the police in the schools. So,
Right.
and I just want to make sure that the public knows that we aren't doing away with it, because, like I said, it's on the news today that there is a jurisdiction that's maybe in danger of losing theirs.
You know, that's what makes me proud of serving on this council.
So with that, I would
Public
just,
safety takes priority.
I'm
No,
so
go ahead,
sorry.
ma'am. Go ahead.
Just with that, I would move to approve this item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Eads. Ladies and gentlemen, we move into discussion items of our agenda. Mr. Lyons, item number 1.
Discussion item number 1, PC 2044, public hearing with discussion and consideration approval of a resolution for a special use permit to allow the use of eating establishment, sit-down alcoholic beverage permitted in C3 Community Commercial District for the property described as a part of the southwest quarter of Section 4, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, located at 6007 Southeast 15th Street. Mr. Harless.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. This is just a simple case where I don't think the original zoning anticipated a liquor to be served in that building, and so this is just clearing up some paperwork in order for Louis to open and be able to serve alcohol at that location.
And this is Louis, correct?
Yes. So be glad to answer any questions.
Do we need to make that an emergency one too?
Does it need to be an emergency?
She's saying no.
It's a resolution.
No, it's a resolution. We can't. Oh, never mind. Good question, though. Well, with that being said, is there any further discussion? It is a public hearing. Does anyone have any objection to this? That being said, entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Second.
I had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Harless. Item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion item number 2, public hearing with discussion and consideration of adopting a resolution approving the City of Midwest City, Oklahoma budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 in the amount of $91,533,453 and establishing budget amendment authority.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do
Just a
have-
big, go ahead, you go first, Tim.
Okay, under this item, I would like to report our sales tax. We just got this in, so I've not sent this to council or staff. There's just a few people that have seen this. So for the month of June, which is half of May and half of April, Christie? The first half of May. Estimate for the first half of May and half of April, then it's trued up the next month, I believe is how it works. Okay. So Our sales tax, and we are pleasantly surprised, or the words I would have is that our sales tax is $3,237,530 for sales, use tax of $358,085, which is a total of $3,314,824. So we are on the sales side, we're down about negative 2.3%. On the use tax, we are up 47.1%. And so versus projection, because that's what we live by with the budget, that's what's submitted for you. So for the month, we are, sales and use tax, we are actually up 1.05%, 37,378, which is a pleasant surprise. For the year, we're still up 2.6%, about $1,000,001. Just to give you a comparison for the other cities, overall, the state was down 12.2%. For comparable cities that we compare ourselves to, Yukon was down 11.7%, Oklahoma City's down 15%, Norman's down 15.3%, Edmond's down 6.7%, Moore is down 2.7%, so they're right about where we're at. And so that is a good thing. I really anticipated sales tax. I've talked to most of you about the sales tax, and I truly anticipated it to be down further than that. So it is very nice, though we're very cautiously optimistic. We still feel like we need to, we still feel we've submitted the budget without a merit increase in it. We've talked about doing a review mid-year to look at either a wage reopener or just look at it overall for the rest of the city. I think instead of waiting all the way through January, we'll like to look at things for the next quarter. So by October, I think we'll have a much better feel on the impact. We know JCPenney's is shut down. That's almost 100,000 square feet of retail space in our city. You know, at some point that will hit us when it comes time to buy clothes for the kids back to school and all those sort of things. So still multiple issues with businesses in the Sooner Town Center, but we are very, we're very happy that it's that. I think, you know, just overall from my perspective, we are a bit of a grocery mecca. We have great grocery stores in this town. We serve Eastern Oklahoma County. We serve Tinker. We serve a lot of people. Our Home Depot, our Lowe's have been strong. Our Walmart's been strong. And so, but we've not had an opportunity to make sure there's not any kind of mistakes either. Is that correct? So we will check that out as well. But anyway, so
Tim,
with that report,
can you go into a little bit further as far as the merit increases and how we would possibly look at those going back?
yes, very good question. Thank you, Councilman Byrne. So what I would recommend is that we will look at the merit increases. If we can afford to do the merit increases, we will do those. Those will come back to council for a budget adjustment for your approval. And then we would recommend that we retro those back to July 1. That way no one's really harmed by their anniversary dates, because that's when merits go into place. So the only way to really do it fair is to go back to July 1 and retro those. And so anybody that has a July 1 date and we decide to do one in October or November, we'll make that up to those in the next check. And with that, that's, unless there's any additional
Any other
questions.
questions?
I was just going to say that in the 4 years that I've been on the council, this is probably the most difficult budget. And I think that anybody in here in memory would probably say it's the most difficult budget. And I just want to thank staff, the department heads who were given a dollar amount and said, let's figure this out. And they did. My hat's off to every single one of you that worked really hard to put this together in a very trying time. Thank you all.
Thank you, and thanks to staff, those department heads that are sitting out there. It was not easy for them to submit a lot of these budgets. So,
That being
I
said,
think so.
this is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience have any questions about the budget? Does anybody on council? Complaints? Rilla? You okay? All right, with that being said, Chair, to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'm sorry.
I just have a concern that I feel the need to address. I echo what Sean said with regard to the efforts for the budget. I do have a couple of concerns about where we're at with some of the issues that we have allotted for in this budget. And I think that we need to address those in terms of some staffing issues. And that needs to be something that is at least of equal consideration to whether or not we are going to give merit increases
Yeah.
or not, is the staffing issues, because there are some positions that we have pulled due to budgetary constraints. And so I would ask that that be an equal consideration. And I know that we are going along trepidatiously, and so the news you've just delivered to us is certainly optimistic, and I hope it continues that way. But I would just make that ask, so.
Yeah.
I agree with Councilwoman Eads and would second that ask.
And that would be our intent as well. Because some departments have frozen multiple positions, as we've talked about, and overall, I think we have 12 frozen positions in the city, so full-time, 4 or 5 part-time, so absolutely.
Well,
Very
We'll
good
do
point. Once again,
someone speaking?
Chair, to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
You got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. And I want to echo my support for the staff as well. I actually witnessed everybody piled into the conference room, papers everywhere, scratching heads, and it was an arduous task for everyone in concern. Thank you for your hard work. Move into discussion item number 3, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of a resolution stating the city's opposition to discrimination based on gender orientation, gender identity, and/or gender expression. There's been a Scribner's error on this. You have been handed out a updated memo and resolution. And if anyone in the public does not have a copy of that, we can get you a copy. With that, I'll turn it over to Heather Poole, our city attorney.
This was based on a request from Councilmember Reed, and with a lot of assistance through the organization Freedom Oklahoma. And basically, as the memo indicates, we are following the footsteps of other cities, other employers within our metropolitan area, to indicate that while not protected under federal or state law, the city has the standard of opposing discrimination that will be based on either sexual orientation or gender expression or gender identity. And the resolution is basically expressing the city's position on that, and any specific policies or procedures would then be implemented at the discretion of the city manager.
Is there any questions or comments?
Tonight's the Let's Thank Staff Night, which it always should be because you guys do a lot of hard work. Thanks, Heather. Thanks for putting this together. This is something that's time to happen. We're not the first in the state, but we are the leader in the state, because there aren't very many that have tackled this sometimes controversial issue, which I don't understand why. But I thank everybody for your consideration and your vote tonight.
With that being said, Ms. Eads, you have a comment?
I just want to thank Councilman Reed for bringing this issue forward and for taking the initiative on that, and with that, I would move to approve.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. And once again, Middlesey's in the lead. Discussion item number 4, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of awarding the bid to and entering into a contract with Turning Point Industries, Inc. in the amount of $539.95 for the original mile revitalization Key Boulevard Phase 2 construction project. Mr. Harless, Mr. Bundy.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Lyon. This is just awarding a bid of a part of a design for Key Boulevard as described, that went through the original mile committee as far as a concept and was put out for design and the engineering on it. I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for helping get that through the school with Dr. Cobb. They reviewed it internally and gave us approval on the easements that we needed in order to do this project. So be glad to answer any questions.
What's the purpose of this? I mean, why are we doing this?
Well, the road is in poor shape, and so part of it is rehab of the road, but also beautification. It's often, Key Boulevard is often referred to as kind of the main street of the original mile. And so with this will be adding sidewalks. It'll be reducing the road, putting on what's called a road diet, reducing it a little bit. Also putting a decel lane in to help some of the queuing issues going into the school, but also lining up the streets there at, gosh, I forget the name of it, Kitty Hawk. And then also there's as was discussed at length in the original mile committee, the speed table that will help with the trail crossing that goes on the south side of the elementary school there. So it does a number of things there. It'll also have some of the pedestrian scale lighting along with it.
What's the queuing issue at the school?
As schools been in and out, there's cars that back up there, and the decel lane will help get some of that in, and then turning that into a four-way intersection, we believe will help that as well.
Okay, let me address this for just 1 second. This is not only in my ward, it's at the end of my street, essentially. And this area that you're seeing, the parking lot, is the parking lot for Midwest City Elementary. And so the alignment that's being proposed for Kitty Hawk is not to align the street, it's to align the entrance to the parking lot for the school district. The school district has never done anything with the control of that parking lot like other school districts have to really control the entrance and exit of traffic and how much or how many cars are parked waiting for kids to be picked up or dropped off. One of the things that has been proposed in the budget for next year is to have a sidewalk run down Kitty Hawk that will allow kids to finally have a sidewalk to transverse through the original mile neighborhood from the east to the west, going to Midwest City Elementary. Now, that being said, they're going to be coming across, and it hasn't been decided whether it's the north side of Kitty Hawk or the south side of Kitty Hawk that the sidewalk is going to be placed on, but there'll be a sidewalk that will join up to this intersection with Key Boulevard for kids to be able to be on a sidewalk to the point that they're crossing over into the area of the parking lot. There's actually a sidewalk that carries them through all the way to Midwest City Elementary. For those of you who remember, originally Midwest City Elementary was where the parking lot is, and the parking lot used to be where the school now is. So they flip-flopped when they built the new school. So there's a lot of sidewalk, a lot of concrete, there. But again, there's two essentially access points to that parking lot. The one that you see that is slightly to the north of Kitty Hawk, and the one that now is being proposed to be directly in line with Kitty Hawk from an east to west direction. The other parts of this are to incorporate sidewalk, and the deceleration lane that Billy was talking about is on the, what would be the east side of Kitty Hawk, of Key, between Kitty Hawk and Jacobs. So that area that's got a light lime green line to it is the deceleration lane. The problem that I have with this project in particular is that we are spending, or we're proposing to spend a lot of money, over $500,000 for this beautification project, and it will tie in with the trails, and it will add sidewalks to the area and so forth. But unless we get some type of essentially buy-in from the school district to control what happens in this parking lot, you're not, in my opinion, going to get the cars off of Key, because there is no deceleration lane or no extra lane for cars to move into when they're headed southbound on Key. And traffic backs up in both directions and down Kitty Hawk when kids are being dropped off or picked up at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day respectively. And it causes a problem for people trying to flow through the neighborhood. Right now, and candidly again, this being my own neighborhood, in addition to being my ward, 29th Street construction has led people to veer off and make a turn and head north by the, I'm so sorry, this mask is driving me crazy, sorry. And turn and drive north at the, I was gonna call it the Cracker Barrel, Cheddar's, excuse me, at the
North
Cheddar's.
Marshall.
And turn on Marshall and go north on Marshall until they can turn back to the west and go and join to Key, and then take Key down to 15th, or, you know, essentially 15th is the best place to get off. But it's caused a lot of traffic to flow through the neighborhood. It's caused a lot of complaints by neighbors about people speeding through the neighborhood. That's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. And when school is in, it's that much more burdensome. There's also, in that area where Key joins Kitty Hawk on what would be the west side of the street, there are cars that often park there, just that are visiting or something, the houses that are there on the west side. And so those are further impediments to traffic flow in that area. And so while it seems strange, because this is an improvement for my ward, I have real problems with this because I don't think that this is going to fix our problem. And we've now gotten approval for an easement or right-of-way to be given to us from the school related to this parking lot. And I think that if we're going to spend this kind of money to address this, we need to address the problems that we're having with this parking lot. And in furtherance, the idea to put this lane directly with Kitty Hawk puts all of the auto traffic as well as the pedestrian traffic in the exact same spot. Whereas right now, they're staggered. One of the driveways into the Midwest City Elementary parking lot is further to the north, and then you can visibly see the second one that's between the dark green and the red there. So there's two access points to that parking lot now, but in lining it up with Kitty Hawk, the traffic is all gonna be stopped there where kids are gonna be at their primary point of crossing. And so one of the reasons why I like the idea of increasing the sidewalks and so forth is to allow kids to have safe egress and ingress to the school parking lot and to the neighborhood and to get to where they're going, as well as to their cars if they're being picked up or dropped off. And I don't think that what we're doing here solves the problem. And so I have a real issue with it, and I would like for that issue to be addressed before we take a vote on this issue.
Mr. Harless, there is a traffic flow problem through that parking lot. Of course, that's school property. Is there a way or a method to enter into some kind of agreement with the school to facilitate some kind of traffic flow through the parking lot? Essentially, one entrance in and one entrance out. And can we provide signage? Can we get the school system to sign off on it? And also, notify the parents that this is going to be the traffic flow through the parking lot. Have we engaged the school system on that?
We have engaged the school system, and we've had a few conversations or a few meetings concerning this parking lot and this layout with Dr. Cobb and some of his staff. And I believe the transportation director was there, if I'm not mistaken. And so do we have a memo from them saying that they approve of this or that they were going to do something in particular? But when they gave us the permission to and the rights of way to go ahead and do this and the temporary right of way to do this, I'm kind of taking that as, yes, move forward with this project. I know that there was some discussion about what they were going to do with their parking lot, but we didn't request a plan or request anything from them. Again, when they gave us approval to do this, that they were going to do with what they needed to do with this. As far as we have had complaints about the speed, busting the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit down there, and that's a good reason for the speed table that's incorporated into this. So I think we're not going to be able to answer.
The issue on 29th Street is going to be a temporary issue.
Yes, sir.
Will be resolved by the end of this summer, as I recall.
Yes, and there's a couple things. I mean, yes, it's not going to solve all the problems that are down there, but I think this goes a long ways in to help resolve some of those issues. And we are tied a little bit to a deadline, because Terry Craft's money, the $75,000 that's mentioned in the memo, has a closing date on that, and I believe it's the end of June, but it may be the end of July. I know that we're bumping up next to that. That's one reason that we brought a partial project.
I go back to my original ask, can we judiciously engage the school system on coming up with an MOU that will facilitate the flow of traffic through that parking lot to address Miss Eads' issue?
I also asked the question earlier, Mayor, about doing some dedicated traffic flow in terms of the street. Like, for example, if you're on the northernmost exit from the parking lot, you can only make a right-hand turn and go north on Key, as opposed to making a left-hand turn and further adding to the clog and the pedestrian crosswalk that's being proposed. And that's the responses that I was getting, was that we could not do that, and that the police department would not be able to enforce that because it's private property. So,
That's one of the, unfortunately, that's one of the issues we have at Soldier Creek Elementary on the, but signage and those kinds of things could help.
Yes, sir. We could help. We can try to incorporate those at a given time when it's seen as necessary. I think some of those things are taken care of in the design. But if there's an issue out there at a later date, we can certainly take that through the Traffic and Safety Committee, or however you'd like to move forward. This is to award the bid. And
Billy,
so-
can we award this at the next council meeting and get an agreement with the school on working out the
I
traffic
think we're
flow?
up against the timeline on
Are we up
funding.
against the timeline?
Do you want, did you say you have, do they have sidewalks?
We have 30 days to award the bid. When did we open the bid?
Really?
But I think
There-
we're bumping into some stuff with Terry's money, the grant money.
How much
Tim-
total
Tim-
money have we spent on this so far with planning and everything?
Well, we've had it surveyed.
I would think
Once,
only so.
twice. We've had it,
The engineering contract was $42,500.
and then the surveying on top of that.
Ms. Price Allen, to answer your question, there are sidewalks on the west side further down, like to the north, kind of where the red area is on this diagram in front of you,
Okay.
which, as part of this proposal, they're asking to remove and replace those with new sidewalks, correct, gentlemen? Where the red area is where the existing sidewalks are, and those would be removed. Other than that, Ms. Price Allen, there aren't sidewalks in this area, other than what you see on essentially the east side, that's cement for the parking lot there. And I don't think this area to the south has a sidewalk on it, does it, Billy? Sorry. This one, is that sidewalk?
That's existing sidewalk.
Okay. But other than that, on the other side of the street where they're proposing to put in sidewalks, there's no sidewalk. There's no sidewalk that runs east to west through the neighborhood, which is why we've proposed in the next budget year to put a sidewalk in there because right now the kids have to walk in the street and they have to walk around parked cars to get to and from the school. And all we have right now is just a painted striped crosswalk, essentially in white.
But that was in the
Proceeds.
budget that was just approved.
I'm sorry?
That was in the budget we just approved, the
Yes,
kitty
uh-huh,
walk.
right, uh-huh. That's
Ms.
what I
Eads,
said earlier.
my ask of you would be, can we go ahead and proceed with this project with the promise of getting some MOUs with the school system? I don't think they would be bitterly opposed to assisting us in facilitating traffic flow through the parking lot and making sure that they follow through with that.
But what if they do? We
What-
have
what if they
What
what?
if they do not want to do this?
I
and
can't
we're-
see that they wouldn't, Mr.
But we
Reed.
can't speak for another entity.
Well, I understand that, but
That's it's kind of like poker term, betting on the come. You have the come line and I don't know,
I'm
you don't play
familiar with
poker.
it, yes.
So you're betting on a future event that might or might not happen. And I always have a problem when we might want to do something like that.
Mayor, I
So-
got a question, and I don't want I don't want Susan to answer this. The things that she just said, was that brought out in the original mile meetings when this proposal was submitted?
No. Some of the concerns were, most weren't. I mean,
The traffic through the school was, I don't remember that being discussed.
This has been through the original mile
I
a
know, but
couple of
the issues
times.
that she's bringing up now, was there any advance notice that those were concerns before we went to the school to get the easement? Did you know of any of these problems when the discussion with the school took place about the easements?
About easements?
Well, you went to the school to get the easements, correct, the temporary easements? When you had those discussions, she's bringing up some issues now that directly relate to the school system and issues that they've got to fix to make this palatable to her.
Yes, sir, we talked to
Did any
them.
of those issues, were you guys aware of those issues when you dealt with the schools? And were any of those issues discussed with them? And
We-
if so, what was their response?
We talked to them about their internal circulation in their parking lot and how this four-way stop was a good thing and it was a good chance to do this. And that's why they gave us the easements to do that. Did we discuss how they were going to arrange some of these other things? No. I think they were sitting around talking about them. They had this, I don't know, a month or two to review, and gave us the easements after that amount of time. So I hope I'm trying to answer your question, but yes, we discussed the issues. I don't know if we discussed all of those concerns, about 29th Street,
And I know
through
that's a lot
traffic.
to ask of you, but here's my concern with what, and I'm not using a poker term, with what Sean said. I'm concerned that we're gonna spend $500,000 and the problem's not gonna be fixed, which doesn't make any sense. I go back to what Mr. Lyons just said. Is there any way, and I wouldn't even be opposed to have a special meeting if we needed to have
I
it.
think we'd have time before the next council. I
To
mean,
get
the
it
next
done.
council meeting would be okay.
So long as you have a quorum, I am gone for the next 2 weeks.
But we need to make sure that the school system is more than just, yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, they're gonna have to commit, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but I've directed enough traffic to know, one of the ways to solve that problem is to block that one exit. Make everybody go to one exit. If that's the issue at the end of the school, they just block it. They force everybody one way, then you don't have competing traffic flow.
Well, we had
I'm not the engineer, you guys are. There may be
Yes.
some solutions, and you could offer them, hey, listen, we want to do this. Here's what we think you guys could do to help us get this passed.
Well, when we sat down with them, we had a couple of different conversations about this street and about relocating any accesses and stuff, and asked them what their preferences were, what they would like to do. If we're going to do improvements out here on Key, we're looking to partner with you on how to do this. And so if they didn't want something, or if they wanted something different, they would have told us. They liked the design and gave us the easements to move forward with this design. If they wanted to tweak it, they would have told us, we don't want 3 exits or entrances, we want 5, or whatever the case may be. So, can we go get a letter from them above and beyond the easements, and approval? Then if that's what we need to do, then we can do that.
I think that's what you're asking for, isn't it, Councilwoman Eads? You'd feel better if they did that.
That is, I mean, we're,
Okay.
The beautification prospect or aspect of this aside, we're spending over $500,000, and I don't feel assured whatsoever that we're gonna solve the traffic problem that's happening right there, nor the primary goal of giving kids safe ingress and egress across that intersection. Moving that intersection down only ties more autos into the same space that we got kids crossing at. Again, like my colleagues have said, I'm not the engineer, but I live this day in and day out, and I know what it looks like, and I know what the traffic looks like, and this isn't solving it, and we're going back into a parking lot that was just reconstructed, if you will, 6 years ago when the school was finalized in 2014, and we're the ones who are investing the money here. The school district isn't putting any money into this, so I think that the least that they can do, if we're going to this endeavor, is to assist us with fixing how the traffic is gonna flow through that parking lot, so that it's not
in your
backing up on
opinion-
the street.
In your opinion, I want to get this straight. when school is letting in and letting out, that northernmost exit be blocked off to facilitate traffic through coming in and going out of the,
I'm not asking for it to be blocked off, Mayor.
That was just.
That was Pat. My thought with it, though, is if it could be a dedicated right-hand turn only so that you could only flow north, it would take traffic coming out of that direction strictly to the north towards 15th Street so that it's not flowing traffic back and further,
is there
gumming
something we
up.
Plugging
can,
up.
is there something we can engineer to that
Well,
effect?
I'd like to address 2 points, if I may. The driveway to the north is actually is a public road to a degree. It goes back to that park, Lions Park. So it's platted. So we can't block it off without more legal.
But we can control it with a right-hand turn only sign if it's a public street, correct?
Correct. The second thing is, this is a award of a bid, so we can't change the bid package until we award it.
So that's a dedicated Midwest City street.
Yes, sir. Used to access the pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that. I'm just trying to come up with a
But I
solution.
thought it was the parking lot that, are you?
I thought it was too, because
Um,
you can't go back through that street anymore.
That's, I used to access Lions Park, that was the only access. So, if we approve this tonight, then we can come back and re-engineer that street for us to make it a dedicated right-hand turn.
Correct.
All you need to do is put a sign in, right?
A sign or maybe some bumps or some kind of traffic
I
control.
can put signs and stripes, but in my experience, signs and stripes, people don't abide by.
Well, we have this
So, yeah.
organization within the city, it's called the police department. We can send them out there, and I bet you after a few days of what they call it, evaluate.
Yeah, we could
engineer,
enforce that.
or enforce, I bet you they get the message after a few of those days.
So, Ms. Eads, would that address your problem?
In part, I mean, my other concern with this issue is just the fact of we're still not controlling, like, how much traffic is gonna back up because they're not controlling how they're actually moving.
Well, actually, coming from the south north, providing that extra lane, and many times I've been up there and watched that, that's gonna alleviate a lot of the issues.
I hope so, but I mean, I think again, if they would specify how traffic is to flow through that parking lot, and sometimes it's more than one lane. I've seen a lot of schools do dual tracks essentially, so you've got 2 lanes and you've got double drop off at the same time, so people are moving through faster. But if the school would be willing to provide that in a dual lane track, we can get that many more cars off the roadway into the parking lot.
You know, the way that's designed up there, I don't know that you could get 2 lanes of cars going up through there. That would be a tough ask. And of course, they've got the drop-off in the front of the school as well.
Yes.
The design,
Ask the school to not let them drop kids off there and let it just be a walkthrough. I mean, I don't know that I know other schools do specify you can only drop off at this location. You can't drop off at, the back side, or you can't drive through to the back side and drop off.
But that
So,
would,
I just think that, while we're investing this, I wanna make sure that we're solving the problem and giving kids a safe way to cross and get to the school.
well, wouldn't the school, they would have to, agree to that, the schools, how the kids are dropped off?
Yes, and that's what I'm asking, Ms. Price Ellen, is to try to get a commitment from the school before we go forward with this project. And, this project went before the original non-reinvestment committee back in December. We held a special meeting. It barely passed. The committee was divided on this issue. It passed by essentially 1 vote, as I recall. And so then it's moved forward since that time. And so that's why, at this point, I still have a lot of concerns about it. And it's very odd for me to speak out about a project that is an enhancement to my ward, but I'm very concerned about it, and I don't want to see the city spend over $500,000 of money
I agree.
for a project that's not going to solve the problem.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just for context, okay, I'm not going to argue whether the school system's access, egress is working or functioning properly, but because we traded some land with the school system so that they could build this school. Mr. Henson and I and Mr. Harless were involved in a lot of meetings, design meetings associated with the design of this parking lot and the access of the park because we were a stakeholder. Just so everyone understands, the way that this school was designed, there was high emphasis on segregation of preschool and kindergarten drop-off and pickup area versus all the grades 1 through 5. So just so you'll know, there were 2 entrances and 2 exits. They used one of them as our dedicated street, which used to access the pool. It's my understanding that that is for 1 through 5, grades 1 through 5, and this entrance is primarily dedicated to pre-K and kindergarten, and it was a safety feature. So I don't know, I wouldn't try to get involved in the school system's design here or what they're trying to do, safety concerns or safety-wise, or whether it even functions properly or not. You can draw things up and engineer things all day long, but a lot of times parents don't obey what you did. But I just wanted everybody to understand that there were 2 entrances and 2 accesses for a reason. It was safety.
Okay.
Is there a solution that we can come up with tonight?
I like Mr. Lyon's solution.
Come back in 2 weeks, let us have a chance to get with the school, get a traffic flow for that parking lot so we can see how it's impacting the intersection.
Is it going to cost us money? Is it going to cost us funding to do that, Mr. Bundy?
I'm not sure about Ms. Kraft's money, the 75,000. It will cost us time as far as school being out, and we're probably still under the gun. But other than that, it won't cost us any additional money.
And we have a good contractor. We're happy with the contractor that did the bid. I don't know that the school's gonna be able to come back and give us something.
Well, how would you get an
Yeah,
accurate
but-
count when school is out?
The school board parking lot was full today.
How would you get an accurate count since school is out, the traffic flow?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I don't think we can, the school's not gonna react that quick to come back and bring us a plan back on how they're doing it.
I don't think she's asking for a plan per se, other than they're gonna commit to cooperating. Is correct? I mean, there's gotta be some give and take. You can't make them they've gotta have time to do it. I think, personally, I would feel better if they said, or put it in writing, they're buying into this, and they're gonna work with us, and they're gonna come up with a plan that, number one, keeps the kids safe and doesn't interfere with our traffic on that street. And if they'll commit to that, I can live with that, with the understanding that they're gonna have to look at it. I mean, it's good, you guys are gonna have to help them. The police department is gonna have to help them. And, we have guys that go out and ride, they have motorcycles, and they can go out there, and their presence will help people read a no right turn sign, or no left turn sign. But I'd hate to not do this, especially if it involves safety of kids, and it's getting them off the streets on the sidewalks. But I agree with Susan, let's not waste the money. I think if we can make an effort in 2 weeks and bring it back, and if you get it done earlier, if there's 4 of us, we can have a meeting. I mean,
It's true, we can have a special meeting.
Well, especially if it involves us losing $75,000 of grant
we're
We
money.
need to
still on
ensure
Zoom
that, do we
meeting, right?
know?
We're still under the electronic meeting law, right?
Yeah.
We could do that.
Mhm.
Can I ask a quick question,
Yeah, we
just to
could.
clarify?
We could do a
First
Zoom
off,
meeting.
does anybody know if we could just take a 5-minute recess and somebody could call Terry Kraft on her cell phone and see if we could reach her and she would know the answer to, if we don't approve this tonight, are we gonna lose the money that she has in grant
Yeah,
money?
Dawn's calling her right now.
Okay, secondly, my other question is, the aspect, if we were to take this north driveway that is actually now, we come to find out, a public street, and we were to dedicate that to right-hand turn only, or you can only flow to the north, does that in any way affect the cost feature for the design of this project? Since I would think it would just be us doing the
Yeah.
signage and us saying, passing that, that it's right turn only, you can only go northbound. That doesn't impact this project, am I right or am I wrong?
It would just be the additional sign that we either incorporate in the project or Public Works staff.
On the scope of this project, it would, no, it'd be fine.
So the way Terry Craft's funding is, I think it's when it's the first pay item is done, that it has to be done. So it has to be done by a certain date, if I understand it correctly. And so,
Can we move?
and so that
I do
matters
know.
when we enter into a contract and when they go out and start doing work, and when it's bid down, it's not, well, it just has to be done by this date. There's other things that have to happen.
And you all aren't sure at this point, even if we approve it tonight, that they can complete this before school goes back in session, correct? For all the, I mean, we've got quite a bit of work involved here, correct?
So it's a 90-day project, and we put an emphasis that they do the school portion at the very beginning.
Okay.
So 3 months, and obviously that gets school back in session, but that contractor, like I said, put an emphasis, let's do the school entrance while they're out. It'll be easier for everyone, and so they're gonna do that.
So when would the work actually start if we approved it tonight? Any idea?
Well, I'm trying to rush the contractor to make sure he gets out there as soon as he can. He'd have to get contract signed and the bonding, but we have a pre-construction meeting Friday where we'd work out the details of schedule, that kind of thing. So I anticipate he's finishing a job for us now, that he would just move from that job to ours, to this one, probably in the, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, can we?
So if it's 2 or 3 weeks, then no, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we don't totally trash $75,000 on the project, yeah, we can come together electronically or physically. We all live in the same area and vote on this and get it on down the road. But, you know, I'd hate for us to lose out on the money. I mean, it's a project and it's a safety project. I wouldn't foresee any issue with the school system on traffic flow and everything like that. And if we can pre-engineer and engineer the right-hand only, right turn only, then it seemed like it would be a go, but
It appears to me that Mr. Sullivan is trying to make contact with Ms. Kraft. Could we maybe just temporarily hold on this issue, recess from this
Yeah,
city
we can
council
recess and go
agenda?
on to the
Yes.
Go
next.
to the next agenda
Well,
and then see if we
actually,
can get back to it at
the
the end of.
next item is adjournment.
We can recess.
Yes, we can.
Can we-
So I'd entertain a motion to recess from the council agenda and move on to the municipal authority.
Second.
I've had a motion and a second to recess. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, I call to order the City of Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. We have one discussion item, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion and consideration of adopting a resolution of the Midwest City Municipal Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 in the amount of $64,060,389.
Discussion.
Does anyone have any questions of staff on this particular item? This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience have a question as to the municipal authority's budget? Hearing none, Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Now move into new business, public discussion of the agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Call to order the Midwest City Hospital Authority. We do have a consent agenda, and once again, these items are placed on the consent agenda. Trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair would entertain a motion to approve. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We have two discussion items with this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
C1, discussion item, public hearing with the discussion and consideration of adopting a resolution of the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 in the amount of $717,013 for discretionary, $1,732,360 for the compounded principal, $519,500 for the in lieu of ROR miscellaneous, and $433,090 for the grants division, and $1,645,843 for the Sooner Rose tax increment financing.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just have one. With regard to the grants division, do we have to take any additional action with regard to making those funds available sooner rather than later? And does that need to be done at this time or later?
It will be at the next council meeting.
Sorry.
And then they'll be available July 17th is what our finance director has told us. So we're trying to back into as close to that date as we can with the grants
Okay,
for the COVID business relief grants.
okay.
Any
Thank you.
further questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone have any questions about the hospital authority agenda, or the budget, I'm sorry? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
No actions needed.
No actions needed on item number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Special Economic Development Authority. We do have 2 discussion items on this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Hang on. Lost my place. I got it. Here we go. Okay, discussion, item number 1, discussion and consideration to approve the minutes of the May 26, 2020 special meeting as submitted.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And second item,
Public hearing with discussion and consideration of adopting a resolution of the Midwest City Economic Development Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 in the amount of $863,965.
any questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone have any questions about the budget for the Economic Development Authority? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, move into public discussion of this agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the Special Economic Development Authority? Hearing none, we do have an executive session tied with this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of 1, entering into an executive session as allowed under 25 Oklahoma Statute Section 307C11 to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or to locate within the city. And 2, an open session authorizing the general manager administrator to take action as appropriate based on the discussion in executive session.
Ladies and gentlemen, I entertain a motion to recess from this particular.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are hereby recessed from the Economic Development Authority, and I call to order the Special Utilities Authority agenda. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of trustees or member of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. The chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I do have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a public discussion of this agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the Utilities Authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. And we will come back to the council agenda. Do we have a resolution?
Hey, Billy. Brandon. Got a question for you. So since we're discussing money, good, bad, 75 grand here, whatever. If we table this, if we do this right now, and the school doesn't do what Matt thinks they're going to do, how much money are we out there?
$42,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, I'm just talking about if we waited, what did Terry say?
We have some more time to award the contract. The biggest concern is that the project goes forward. If the project doesn't go forward, then we have to pay back the money for the $40,000 for the engineering. We have to pay that back
If
to
we
the
don't go
federal,
forward
federal government. So, but if the intent is for the project to be awarded at a special council meeting or at the next council meeting, we're not going to lose the money, is the answer to your question.
Yeah, I think we put it off and let staff decide. I think we put this off, let staff decide if we need to have a special meeting or if it can be heard at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Chair would entertain a
Wait,
motion
wait,
to reflect
wait,
that.
Staff would recommend we take no action on this item
Okay,
in case we need to change.
no action? Okay. That's easy.
Okay, we take no action. We're coming out of recess of the council agenda. Is there anything else to bring before the council? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned, and we move back to our executive session, and the chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Had a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in executive session. Anyone not involved with the executive session, I would have to ask you to exit the council chambers. Thank you for being here, Rella. I appreciate it. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for showing interest in your municipal government.
There wasn't anybody